The word idiot exists in many modern languages.
Idiot!
Stop talking like an idiot.
Ιδιώτας!
Bunch of incompetent idiots.
You idiot. Idiots!
We use it to describe someone who is not very bright or stupid. But in ancient Greece, this word had a completely different meaning. And for the ancient Greeks, most of us, modern people, would be considered idiots. But why? Is there something wrong with us? Or do ancient people just enjoy insulting others? The reason lies in the nature of ancient Greek politics. The term ancient Greece is used to refer to the Greek-speaking world in ancient times. This means that ancient Greece was never a unified state. In fact, the ancient Greeks lived in autonomous, self-governing city-states known as poleis, which were formed in the archaic period. The word political is in fact derived from polis. The polis was governed by officials with specific responsibilities, such as military leadership, jurisdiction, or the supervision of religious practices, who were appointed in some kind of election. This does not mean that all poleis had the same form of government, or that a polis had the same form of government all the time. What they did have in common was that only very few were ruled by kings. Sparta was one of the few poleis where kingship was not abolished.
This is Sparta!
A principal concern of all poleis was freedom and autonomy. The freedom from domination by a great power or by a different polis, which implied autonomy, that is, a possibility of making one's own laws. The polis was of supreme importance to its occupants, who gradually became true polis citizens, politai. The Greeks regarded life in a polis as the most ideal and most humane form of existence. The idea of being incorporated in a large empire was intolerable to them, and they did everything within their power to prevent the risk of that ever happening. They did, however, feel united by their common language, by their worship of the same gods, and by their communal traditions, such as the Olympic Games. The ancient Greeks contributed significantly to the modern world. Many aspects of their culture, such as theater, philosophy, and geometry, are still present in our lives today, albeit in evolved or adapted forms. By the way, if you are looking to deepen your knowledge in these or other subjects, working with a personal tutor can be incredibly effective. Preply provides access to a broad network of qualified tutors in a range of fields. You can get a 30% discount on a trial lesson with any tutor by using the link in the description. Although we have borrowed much from Greek culture, there are still significant differences between us and the ancient Greeks. One of the most notable is their attitude toward public and private life. In ancient Greece, active involvement in public affairs, whatever they form, was regarded as a civic duty of the highest importance. A polis was in principle always a city with its surrounding land, but more important than the city were the citizens. The polis was the community of the politai. Greek authors speak of the Athenians rather than of Athens. Certainly, size matters. Greek polis were tiny compared to modern countries or even cities. For example, at its peak, the population of Athens could have reached 300,000 people. Today, that will be equivalent to one district of London. However, this figure was usually much lower. For example, Plato believed that the ideal number of citizens for a polis was 5,040. Therefore, political involvement can be explained by the small number of citizens and the very structure of the polis. And this is partially true. However, the Greeks believed that the gods could punish the entire polis even for one bad person living in it. Even in polis in which citizens did not directly vote on laws, however, there was a strong sense of community, out of which developed the concept of civic virtue, the idea that the highest moral calling was to place the good of the community above one's own selfish desires. This concept was almost unparalleled elsewhere in the ancient world. While other ancient peoples certainly identified with their places of origin, they linked themselves to lineages of kings rather than the abstract idea of a community in most cases. Also, all Greek citizens were equal before the law. which was a radical break since most other civilizations had different sets of laws based on class identity. With all that said, let's move on to idiots. In ancient Greece, an idiot was someone who chose to distance themselves from political responsibilities, failing to contribute to the collective well-being of the city. This word came from
ίδιος,
which meant personal, own, private, relating to oneself. Idiot in Greek did not mean a stupid person. If someone was called an idiot, it might not be a condemnation, but it was not a compliment either. It was a private individual or common person, uneducated in a specific field, not a professional, as opposed to, say, a warrior, politician, or scientist. The word entered Latin as
Idiota.
meaning an uneducated or unskilled person. In the Middle Ages, its meaning began to narrow and took on a more negative connotation, referring to someone who was illiterate, ignorant, or foolish. In modern European languages, including English and French, it came to signify a fool or a person with reduced mental capacity. What a lovely day to watch some more. Who needs sunshine when you've got videos like these?